Chapter 1. Part 1. Chapter 1. The first year of the war was propitious for the Alliance. It seemed like a sure victory, but after the siege of the Red Mines the course of the war changed radically. Chronicles of the Dragon Ridge, Volume 4. Author, Elia Alaninum. A year later. Agnorok was running hurriedly through the galleries of the mine, Gosberg accompanying him with a serious countenance. The Fourth Iron War was not proceeding in a manner favorable to the interests of the Kingdom of Domemba and the mercenaries. When they arrived in Domemba last year, the mercenaries found themselves in a critical situation. The dwarfs of the ridge had already taken over the Fortunate Mines, while the south of the kingdom was being harassed by Olbiana. The situation was also dire in the west. The kingdom of Scythia was trying to block the water channel through which King Dasmir II supplied his capital. The mercenaries had to use all their troops and resources to prevent this, but they failed. In addition, that decision cost them to sacrifice the Kaid mines. That fell with hardly any opposition into the hands of the dwarfs. Luckily they were cautious and did not abandon their positions inside the mines. It was a place too coveted by them. After this setback, they stuck to the initial strategy, except that Debok had to change his initial position in Minas Dakara to occupy the square of Kazmin with his troops. This time it was clear that Olbiana and the dwarfs on the ridge had conscientiously prepared the invasion. The alliance between Olbiana, the dwarfs, and Scythia was called the Alliance of the White Leaf, since it was said that the alliance was formalized in a meeting in the forests north of Scythia, where trees called trabezos grow, which stand out for their characteristic white leaves. The alliance demonstrated its power at the Battle of Trasby, which resulted in a resounding defeat for Domemba. And only thanks to an orderly retreat did they manage to minimize losses. Later in the Battle of Ulrika the advance of the alliance in the south was stopped, leaving the front stabilized. But the pressure in the west, south, and north by the coalition between the dwarfs and Olbiana was very intense. The invaders besieged the Black Castle in the south under the command of Aris. They did the same in the west with the royal palace in Dasmir where Lorantha's battalion was located. The troops of Silkari and Kush in the southeast were barely holding back the advance of Olbiana. Debok was held in Kazmin without knowing where to advance, since leaving the city without troops was an invitation to its occupation. They could not risk losing Kazmin Square, as it meant leaving the north isolated, and that would be the beginning of the end. Agnorok was in the northwest and the situation was not good either. They were stationed there to protect the last mine free of the dwarfs, the Red Mines. They were also the most coveted by them. To their surprise they had to contain an attack by the Alliance at a ford near the north of the mines. They intended to isolate them by cutting off the northern passes. The battle ended in a narrow defeat for Domemba. Agnorok had to retreat to the Red Mines when he saw that he could not hold his position against the enemy and could only try to resist inside their walls. War was hell. They were always fighting against a vastly superior enemy. King Dasmir II appealed to his allies in the Dragon Dorsal League for support. He received a small army at the beginning of the war, but it was certainly very little help for the promises that had been made to him. The other kingdoms asked him for patience, since it was not easy for them to prepare an army in such a short time. King Dasmir reluctantly accepted. Agnorok's orders were simple: to hold out until the arrival of the League's reinforcements, so said the last letter received by Debok. The letter had arrived a month earlier. Since then he had no news about how the war was going in the south except for rumors that arrived without contrast. The Red Mines were under siege, and although the provisions were sufficient for the moment, the half-orc was not sure he could hold out for long. In recent days the attacks have intensified by the besiegers, but as always the situation can get worse. By dawn the fortifications of the Red Mines were under attack, predictably. Just as he was preparing to go to battle on the walls, Agnorok received the news that the mines were also being attacked underground. Something that was to be expected from the dwarfs, since that was how they took the Fortunate Mines and Kaid. Knowing this, Agnorok had been farsighted and stationed 100 of his mercenaries inside the mine. He was the most vulnerable part of the entire square, so he decided to supervise the defense of the galleries himself. He left Critus, Sabu, and the governor of the Red Mines, Sebastian Darbical, in command of the resistance on the surface. Agnorok descended with Gosberg to the deepest levels of the Red Mines to stop the attack. It was crucial to resist in the galleries. If they gave in, they would be lost to being attacked on two fronts.